Welcome to One Black History. I'm your host, Country Boy, and today's episode is about the Netflix movie, The Harder They Fall. The movie assembles a cast of black actors to play legendary Western figures from across time to tell a fictional story about two rival groups, the Nate Love Gang and the Rufus Buck Gang. And if this is the type of content that you enjoy, please hit the subscribe button. Also, you can find more content like this at onemikehistory.com. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can do so in my Patreon page in the description below. Without further ado, let's get started. In real life, the Nat Love Gang and the Rufus Buck Gang most likely never crossed paths because Nat Love had already settled down and began working as a Pullman porter in 1890, and the Rufus Buck Gang wasn't even created until 1895. The film does offer a rare representation of black cowboys and frontiersmen and lawmen, erased from Hollywood's depiction of the Old West. The reality is at least 1 in 4 cowboys was black, and that black cowboys were some of the first cowboys on the cattle trails using skills that they had learned from handling cows as slaves. While The Harder They Fall tells a fictional story that departs from actual historical events, the characters were very real. And today we're going to talk about the historical people behind the characters in The Harder They Fall. And in particular, we're going to talk about Rufus Buck, played by Idris Elba. Idris Elba's Rufus Buck character in the movie follows a very similar path to the actual Rufus Buck. Buck in the movie was a lifelong criminal hardened by systematic racism, and he believed that through a criminal enterprise he could build a legitimate business structure that could better his community, and was willing to take ruthless means to get to that end. See, not much is known about the early life of Rufus Buck before he turned 18 and formed the Rufus Buck Gang. What little we do know is that he was born to a black mother and a Creek father, and the Rufus Buck Gang was an interracial gang of African Americans and Creek Native Americans. This included Sam Sampson, Muhammad Jalai, and the brothers Lewis and Lucky Davis. All of them had been arrested for minor offenses and served time in the Fort Smith jail in Arkansas before joining forces. All the members of the gang wanted to be known as famous outlaws in the Wild West. Buck allegedly boasted that his outfit would make a record that would sweep all other gangs in the territory into insignificance. So the gang started to build up a small cache of weapons while staying in Okmulgee, Oklahoma, and after killing a U.S. Marshal by the name of John Garrett, one of the few black marshals in the Indian Territory, in July 30th, 1895, the gang started holding up stores and ranches around Fort Smith area and began preying on white settlers. In one incident in particular, an elderly salesman named Callahan, who the gang had just robbed, was offered a chance to escape if he could outrun the gang. When the old man was successful in outrunning the gang brutally murdered his assistant out of frustration. Much later, the gang killed a man named Gus Chambers when he attempted to stop them from stealing horses. A few days later, they robbed a stockman who was a man that raised livestock just so they could take his clothes and his boots. They also started firing at him as he ran away butt naked. 2 days later, they raped a woman named Rosalita Hanson and forced her husband to watch. This all came to a head outside of Muskogee, Oklahoma, when the combined forces of the U.S. Deputy Marshals and the Creek Lightfoot Police began to close in on the gang. An ensuing gun battle between the marshals and the gang lasted almost a day before the gang finally surrendered. The Creek Police wanted to hold the gang in Indian Territory for trial, but eventually the U.S. Marshals prevailed. The gang was taken back to Fort Smith in Arkansas to face Judge Isaac Parker. When they were brought before the court later that year, they were convicted on rape and murder and sentenced to death. However, the verdict was appealed and the execution was delayed. In the end, though, the appeals failed and the judge re-sentenced them to death. Rufus Buck and the 4 members of his gang were executed on July 1st, 1896. The vicious robbery and murder spree only lasted a full 2 weeks. While the apparent random violence terrified the local white settlers, the violence wasn't actually that random. In 1895, there were more whites in the Indian Territory than actual Native Americans, and the Dawes Act in 1887 allowed the federal government to strip tribes of their land rights in Indian Territory so that land could be used for white settlements. Rufus Buck dreamed the gang's murder spree would trigger a Native American uprising that would expel the illegal white majority and reclaim Indian Territory for the Native people. Thank you. This has been the story of Rufus Buck and the Rufus Buck gang. And if you like content like this, please hit the subscribe button. Also, if you want to listen to more content like this, you can find more on my channel and also at onemichistory.com. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by donating to my Patreon page in the description below. Peace.